MJS617, please talk about that Times Siena poll and how weird the crosstabs are. Even though I take it with a grain of salt, I need to be talked down. The crosstabs are weird. I mean, look. The idea that I think like Harris is only getting 74% of black support in that Times Siena, that if that happens, something has radically changed in our society. It's, you know, I don't want to get into the sort of like skewing the polls. I've seen people who say like these are the way that they weight their polls and assume who's voting based upon the decisions they make, who's in the sort of the survey pool, you know, what age groups, et cetera, people find hard to believe. But broadly speaking, look, this is a 50-50 election. I think you have to assume that in terms of the Electoral College. I think Kamala Harris is definitely going to win the popular vote. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But in terms of the Electoral College, it's 50-50. Like, how else could it be? The last two elections have been decided by less than 100,000 votes over the course of multiple states. Yeah. Clinton lost by 40,000 votes. Was it 40,000 or 60,000 votes? Or 70,000 votes over the course of 3 states. I think Biden won by less votes over the course of like 4 states or 5 states.
It was extremely close. You know, Siena, there's some criticism. It's hard to discern New York Times Siena. It's definitely one of the most highly rated polls in the country. So I understand people freaking out about it. But it's also not, the freak out should be proportionate to the fact that the overall trend is indicated toward that Harris is gaining and has been gaining in the aggregate in Washington Post Ipsos, in YouGov, in Suffolk, in Reuters Ipsos, Wall Street Journal, like
CBS YouGov, Michigan, 50% Harris, 49% Trump. Pennsylvania, 50-50. Wisconsin, 51-49%. But if you look at like
this is the New York Times polling, right?
No, that is CBS YouGov.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The Times Siena poll taken late July after Biden dropped, the Times poll is basically, there's been no change since then. Now, I guess that's possible, but I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's possible.
And ABC
28% though, this is in that poll.
Yeah.
28% of likely voters said they felt they needed to know more about Ms. Harris, while only 9% said they needed to know more about Mr. Trump. Okay. So here's the bottom line. Like, they know Donald Trump. That 28% is more likely, just in terms of common sense, to break for Harris. 5%, when taken with the 5% of voters, these voters who said they were undecided or did not lean toward either major party, paint a portrait of an electorate that could be more fluid than it seems. Now, look, the fluidity, if people aren't already voting for Trump, it's hard to imagine that they're going to do it now. The only sort of like issue that would have been, you know, is a race and gender issue.
Yep.
But if November is about change, Ms. Harris will make the case that she can deliver it. More than 60% of likely voters said the next president should represent a major change for Mr. Biden, but only 25% said the vice president represented that change, while 53% said Mr. Trump, the former president, did. So I don't know how you take these things. I really don't. This is what I find interesting from the post Ipsos poll. of regarding Black Americans. Post-Ipsos poll of 1,083 Black Americans. Maybe just put this up, Bradley. Washington Post finds that 69% say they are absolutely certain to vote in November, up 62% in April, albeit lower than the 74% in June of 2020. So those numbers are down relative to 5%. But it's not inconceivable to me that people are just not aware of necessarily that
there's a lag.
That you know, it's going to be interesting what happens after this debate, just in terms of sheer awareness that Harris is the candidate. I mean, I know like it's absurd for us to contemplate that there is a significant number of people out there who are not aware who's running in this presidential election, but it's true.
Yeah.
The share of Black people under 30 years old saying they are certain to vote this fall is up 15 percentage points from April. Among Black women under 40, turnout interest is up 18 points. Turnout interest among younger Black men also rose by 8 points. Among Black registered voters, 82% say they will definitely or probably vote for Harris, up this November, up from 74% who said they would support Biden in April. Shy of Biden's 87% mark among Black voters, according to 2020 national exit polling. So can she make up 5 points from those who predict they would definitely or probably vote for Harris among Black voters relative to the end? Like, you know, we're just starting the campaign for a lot of people. So I'm not, that
Bradley,
number doesn't bother me.
Could you scroll down to where Sam was reading and then also just show that chart there? Oh, yeah, sorry, that's where it is. I mean, this is a good visual, I think, for people about where Black Americans are overall. Harris has gained on Biden by, from 62 to 69%. Black registered voters overall, she's up. There's no category until you get to men, women, all up. Huge leap for 18 to 29, huge leap for 30 to 39. And then you get to the high propensity older Black voters where it's basically the exact same. The only thing that hasn't changed is men 40 and up. It's identical for Black male for Black male voters 40 and up to what Biden was doing. So it's just general, increase in enthusiasm to vote for the Democrat at the top of the ticket among those voters. And then I also will say what I thought you were going to maybe refer to is that I guess Ipsos does it with ABC on Washington Post, but there was an ABC poll from earlier today that still has Harris up by 6 points with likely voters and by 4 points with all adults and registered voters. So, I just think we have to look at the overall trend here. And there are some people who are smarter than myself who have alleged that the Siena polling more heavily weights Republican-leaning voters. I'm not sure how true that is. I'm just putting that out there. And so we'll have to see. But it was always an extremely difficult task for her. Like, we were all feeling very excited about her surge in momentum, but this is taking a campaign infrastructure that isn't her own and trying to win a race based on that proposition without a long ramp up period, which has its benefits, but it also has the other side of things where you don't have enough time to make your case in some instances. I just think we don't need to be, there's a lot of people drawing conclusions about this one-time Siena poll that fits what they already wanted to criticize her over. And I feel like we can have those criticisms about, say, her vagueness in Gaza policy and not breaking from Biden and not tie it to the electoral consequences of it, where I think that people are making way too many causal connections where I don't necessarily know if that's the case.
It'll be interesting to see what the implications of this debate are in terms of just like general awareness of where Harris stands, and where she's at. She's just posted her stuff onto the website. for whom I'm going to suggest that it will make the difference with 0% of the voters. It will change the media narrative a little bit. I haven't read too deep into these policies, but there's been improvement on the TIPS legislation from what Emma has read. And I've taken a look at the foreign policy. There is mention of Gaza. It is almost the identical language from what we saw from Phil Gordon and that tweet from like 2 or 3 weeks ago that we were talking about for a while. So there's really nothing new to be gleaned from there. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.